Gaze reading where the greats drop by. Trendy authors tell us all the who, what, and why. Anyone can listen cause we're spoiler free. Gaze reading from Pulitzer stars to book club picks, where the curious minds can get their fix. So you say you're not gay, well that's okay. There's something for everyone. Gaze reading.
Hello and welcome to Gaze Reading. I'm your host, Jason Blitman, and on today's episode, I have author Emily Austin talking to me about her new book, Is This a Cry for Help? If you are new to Gaze Reading, welcome. If you are a returning listener, welcome back. I'm always very happy to have you, of course. What's going on this week? Later this week on Thursday, we are announcing the February Gaze Reading Book Club pick. So keep an eye out on the Instagram for that. Of course, the Gaze Reading Instagram is simply at Gaze Reading. You still have until Thursday to sign up for the January book club if you are interested in joining us. That book is Lucky Seed by Justinian Huang. Yeah, if you're in the Southern California area, on Tuesday, January 20th, I will be in conversation with author Laura Dave at Warwick's in San Diego. And I'm trying to think what else is happening. Oh, so this episode is the first that I'm doing where I'm including special bonus content from the guest on the Gaze Reading Substack. So you'll hear a bunch of exclusive content, including author recommendations, exclusively for paid subscribers on the Gaze Reading Substack. So you can go check that out. The links to all the things are in the show notes, are on the link tree on Instagram. And yeah, I appreciate everyone who supports this little indie podcast. The best way to support Gaze Reading is by joining the Substack. And if you don't want to spend any money, then you can just leave a review or like and subscribe wherever you get your podcasts, or subscribe on YouTube, or lots of clicking and subscribing. As always, thank you all so much for being here and enjoy my conversation with Emily Austin. I am obsessed that you have a card catalog behind you.
My sister got it for me. Isn't it nice?
Is it inappropriate to ask what you keep in it?
Oh, I keep the weirdest things. It's where I put like any knick-knacky thing I have. So I once accidentally ordered, for example, several phone cases that had, what's his name? The guy from Twilight, the vampire.
Because there's the other guy, there's the werewolf. And then
I'm talking vampire for some reason. Where's his name? And
Robert Pattinson.
Robert Pattinson. I don't know why I can't remember that, but it's that weird picture of him standing in a kitchen. Have you ever seen that? It's a very funny photo where he's like awkwardly standing in a kitchen. Anyways, I accidentally ordered like several phone cases that didn't fit my phone. So one of this is full of that.
Why didn't you just return them?
They were like not expensive.
Do you give them out as gifts?
I should. That's why I have them there. I think anytime I see someone with the right shaped phone, I'm like, hey.
Yes.
Want a weird phone case?
That is such an interesting place to store those.
Yeah. Among other things, yeah.
Oh my God, I'm obsessed. I feel like for the book, and especially because of the content of the book, you should do like a social media tour of what you have in the drawers.
Good idea.
You're welcome.
Double check what's in there.
Exactly. You have to curate it first.
Yeah, the right tone. Yes.
So funny. Okay, speaking of, I'm alluding to it, but you were here to talk to us about, is this a cry for help? How do I want to ask this question? You write your pitches before you start writing.
I do, yeah.
So I'm curious, A, for you to share your pitch of, is this a cry for help? But then also I want to know if and how it changed.
Oh, that's a fun question. And you're doing your homework. Good for you.
Come on, this is Gaze Reading. Welcome. Come, we do our homework here. I'm an overachiever, which we'll get to a little later.
Oh man, I wish I had it written down because I don't remember what I'll open a Word document, I'll write it, and then I modify it every time I write. So I could probably look in the version history and see what it used to be. But it was definitely something like lesbian librarian dealing with complicated grief is confronted by book banning fanaticals at the library, something like that. generally while I'm writing, I'll be like, okay, how can I improve this? So I'll go back to it and be like, okay, because when you write, generally you're taking on your own little path. The story takes its own
Yeah.
life, and then things change. Like a practice I do when I write is whenever I open the document, I read the pitch over and I see what changed since I last wrote and how I can make it pitched better. Yeah.
Is that like you said that's an exercise every time you open it. Are you constantly modifying it?
Yeah, I think that's how I would get into the mindset of writing, I think, and
Mm,
it forces me to have because when you are writing, you're so in the weeds of the story, and you can get lost in it a little bit, and I find that if I have just, like, a paragraph at the beginning of the document that's, "This is what this book is about," it reminds me, like, "Okay, what is the actual" I get, like, the higher level perspective before I go
mhm.
back into the weeds, so it helps me get into the right frame of mind.
I love that. So is that obviously can be the pitch for the book now, but is that how you are pitching the book now?
Oh, the people who are better at pitching books get involved. So normally I think like I'll share that normally like I'll write a book and then I'll email my literary agent and be like, here's the pitch
Now
in the
you tell me
email.
what it's about.
Yeah, you tell me what it's later. And then I think she probably spruces it up before she shops it out.
Yeah.
And then the people who know how to really I think maybe it helps give some footing to the people who are actually good at doing that, but I'd like to think it's generally what comes out on the back of the book and what people say is better than what I wrote, but I
Sure.
think it came from it.
Now that you are, I assume this is the very beginning of your book tour journey because,
Yeah.
spoiler alert, it is not January 13th when this episode is coming out. It is, in fact, the end of December 2025, which is why I was like, I look haggard. And I was like, I cannot be recording my quote unquote first author interview of the year and
Well,
feeling
look,
feeling as haggard as I do. And I was like, Jason, it is the end of the year. You're allowed to be your authentic self.
you truly do not look
That's okay. So I feel haggard. And it's
Get that.
we're
Feel the same way.
embarking
Even
on the
get a haircut.
right, exactly. Right. I didn't like fully shave.
Yeah.
I'm not living my new year, new you
Right,
experience.
yeah, we're just, like, eating cookies and
I'm
eating
like
ice.
still eating poorly.
Yeah.
I'm half pretending that we are in the new year because your book is out now. Um, so you were a librarian.
Yes.
I have to know everything about this experience. Did you like keep a log of stories? Did all of those stories end up in the book? Are there things that come to mind that you're like, oh, when I was a librarian, blank, what is this is the first thing that comes to mind?
I started writing the book when I was taking new employee orientation at a public library, and one of the first things that they taught us in that orientation was their access to information policy, which covered things like porn consumption in the library. And I remember, like, the first part of this book that I wrote in my notes app while I was in that orientation because they said patrons are allowed to consume porn at the public library. They're not allowed to be doing any lewd acts.
Sure.
The content can't be illegal. It needs to be legal content, but we don't restrict access to information. And so the first page of my book is about the librarian seeing someone watching porn. So that came from that. I went to school to be a librarian, and one of my sisters is a librarian. And so I work in a job now that's like my day job is librarian adjacent. So a lot of my coworkers and friends and people I used to go to school with in my family are librarians. So I often hear the stories of what's going on in the library, and I'm sure that helped me write this book.
Yeah. Was this orientation first of all, how long ago was this orientation? I'm so curious.
Uh, Not that long, like maybe 5 years,
Oh,
4 years,
okay.
yeah. Yeah.
Um, and was it in Canada?
Yes.
Okay. Assuming that was your experience in Canada, I reached out to my local library yesterday
Okay.
because I was like, I'm a fake journalist, so I need to know what are the local rules for
What did
me?
they do?
Can I watch porn in my local library? I happen to know the people at the library
Okay, I was gonna say it's probably like, "Oh, this guy."
relatively well, so I was like, okay, this is such a random question, but
Yeah.
hilariously, of course, the person who I have the best connection with there is out of the office right now
Okay.
because it's the end of the year and not
Right, yeah.
January 13th.
Right.
So I'm still on a hunt for whether or not I'm technically allowed to watch porn in the
It's an
library.
easier way to find out, just go to the library.
I did say to my husband yesterday, I was like, I should just do a drive-by of the
Oh,
library.
wait.
And go. I needed to, honestly, this is so funny, but I thought about it, but I wanted to bring the copy of your book because, of course, on the first page is where it
Right.
says all of that. And I
Yeah.
was like, I don't just want to be the weird guy just like awkwardly explaining this. I want to have the book with me, and I didn't have it with
Yeah.
me.
Fair enough.
So anyway, that was my journey of trying to discover whether or not it was legal for
It
me.
definitely varies library to library.
Right.
And I
I
think even the
figured.
library that I was given orientation at, I know that sometimes it changes. It often becomes like when it is an issue, when something happens, it'll be like a story in the newspaper. And then
Mm,
people will often be like, what? You can't do that. And then when they dig into it and understand a little bit more about censorship and what the impact and it's actually quite an interesting ethical dilemma.
yeah, no, it truly is. And the ethics of being a librarian really come up a lot in the book, which, like, frankly, I'd never really thought about.
Yeah. It's a big part of it. That was something I never really thought about either until like it was one of the first things, like one of the first courses you take when you become a librarian, at least in my experience, was this like foundational class that I thought I don't know what I was expecting, but it was philosophy.
Mm,
It was very like, what is the purpose of a democracy? Why is it important to have access to information? What's the history of how people were able to access information in the past? What is censorship versus hate speech? What is like all of that was a big part of the course. It's interesting.
did taking that course make you think, oh, duh? Or were you like, oh, I'm now thinking about things in a different way?
I think a mix. There's some things like there's interesting stories about the police coming into libraries and demanding like patron records and things like that that I wouldn't have thought, and I wouldn't have thought of. I didn't realize that librarians were in a position where they could defend that sort of. I didn't. I went into librarian school thinking I love going to the public library.
Uh,
I like to read, which is an annoying thing for people to think when they want to become
I like
librarians.
to read. I like numbers. I could do the Dewey Decimal System. Let
Exactly.
me
Yeah.
become a librarian.
Yeah. This is perfect for me. But yeah, there is definitely a whole other element and even more, like even outside of the ethical things, there's so much in relation to like community development and there's a lot.
Oh, interesting. That's really cool.
Yeah, it's a cool job.
But you did not stick around as a librarian.
Well, like to be a librarian, it's like being a lawyer, where you get like a certain certification, right? You get a
Hmm.
master's of library and information science, and then the other thing with being a librarian is that it's a versatile career. You could work in public libraries, or you could work in an academic library, you could work in like a law library,
Mm,
you could work in library adjacent type things, which I do. No,
sure.
I don't work in a public
Okay,
library.
fair. I'm so like stuck on the library thing because I think I only now living in a small town see the impact of a library on a community in a scale that's so different, like coming from New York City, where
Right.
obviously the libraries are it's more like a cultural institution around the world. You know what I
Yeah.
mean? There's like this
Yeah.
major impact. It's actually so funny. I happen to have right next to me, and this was not like a planned prop. I'm just reorganizing my office. But this is a
Nice to
bookend
meet
that is
you.
one of the lions of the
Nice to meet you.
library from the main New York Public Library. Like this,
That kind of yeah.
it's like iconic, right?
Yeah.
So you don't think about, oh, there's community development involved
Right.
in a local library. Oh, new moms can get diapers from their local
Right.
library.
Right.
So,
Yeah.
and so really becoming a part of this, my husband is on the board of the Library Foundation now. So
Hi.
it's suddenly this like deeply rooted thing in my life. And the book so much talks about, as you just alluded to, the public library being this like democratic institution.
Right.
And I don't think we take advantage of our libraries enough in a way that it's just not a place, it's not just a place for us to check out books and read.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah. And I think one thing that occurred to me more in library school and that I now know a lot more is that when you do think of libraries the way we were just saying, oh, it's a place where you can get help and but it's also even if you're someone who doesn't need that, for example,
Hmm.
going to it and supporting it, getting a library card, taking out books is actually a way of supporting the library and supporting all of those things also.
Right.
So everybody using the library is in the best interest of your whole community. And that was something that didn't occur to me until
Yeah. Authors will talk all the time about not only pre-ordering a book and what that says to the publisher, to the bookstores, to the indie bookstores, but also placing a hold on
yeah,
at
that
the
too.
library. It says to your local library, I'm interested in this book, in this content, in this author,
Exactly.
you
Yeah.
know.
Yeah.
Okay, somewhere in the book, Darcy, our protagonist, talks about how she used to be someone different and around age 23 split into a cell. And I'm curious, what are the different versions of Emily?
Oh, of me.
Yeah.
That's fun. I do think I am also like I do have some of the same experiences as Darcy, not completely. She's definitely a fictional character, but a lot of Darcy's story is about her being deeply affected by compulsory heterosexuality, for example.
Mm,
And grew up in like a small conservative community, went to Catholic schools my whole life, and was very deeply affected by compulsory heterosexuality. I also didn't realize that I was gay until around that age too, I would say, despite the fact that like I had that experience where all my friends were gay. And like it wasn't clear to me, and I
mm,
was really affected by that. And I remember something clicking similarly to how it was reflected in this book for Darcy. I remember feeling like my brain fully developed and being like, oh, like I'm and not just about being gay, about though I think that sort of has webs into other parts of your identity. I
yeah.
think realizing that so much of what I cared about and so many of my choices in life and so much of that was centered around a certain social script that you're given in life, especially girls, around like appealing to men in a particular way, not even just like sexually, just like looking for male validation in order to feel like you are valuable or
Mm,
important or anything. Like there was so much like the way that I dressed, the way, even though I never even like when looking back, it's odd because I remember I was someone who never had a crush on a guy. I remember all my friends having crushes on guys and me being like, okay, I have to pick someone to have a crush on because I
mm.
don't. But still picking out clothes, being like, oh, I can't wear. I remember when people started to wear high waisted pants, for example, and being like, that's like, men are going to think that's ugly. And being like,
Oh, interesting.
I'm not going to dress like that, even though I never even liked, like, it's strange. But anyway, so it
Hmm.
had this webs. It impacted so much of my like how I dressed, the choices I made, who I dated, not even just in terms of being men, but like the type of man,
Yeah.
so much of things. So there's definitely a clear block between who I was when I was like a teenager, yeah, or really early 20s, and after that,
Hmm.
that I see as being really related to being gay. But yeah.
Which, on one hand, doesn't surprise me. On the other hand, is an experience so different from me because I came out when I was like 13 to some of the first
Oh,
people
yeah.
that I knew. So thinking about it from the perspective of I'm in the process of going through puberty and discovering myself. So I'm going through all of these life changes
Yeah.
at one time. Yeah, so it's interesting to like you did that and then had like another version of that later in
Yeah.
life.
I
Yeah.
think what my impression is because a lot of my friends were gay men and when I was a
Mm,
and they were who realized they were gay. And then it took me longer. I think it's so there's this essay about compulsory heterosexuality written by Adrienne Rich that really focuses on like the lesbian experience, which I think is often in many cases lesbians don't realize that they're gay until later and because of these weird
yeah.
because and this is reflected in the book with partly because women the way that we navigate relationships with men are impacted by more things than sexual attraction and you're not even conscious of it because especially when you're like a 13-year-old girl you're not like oh I think I like Jimmy because his liking him will make Sarah think I'm cooler and people will like me more and I will feel better about myself. You don't realize that. You just think, I think I have a crush on this guy, even though you don't.
Well,
It's complicated.
the book also goes into this, not super explicitly, but there's a conversation about nurture versus nature as an idea. The idea that like you're growing up exposed to the same things, school curriculum, news, pop culture.
Right.
This is more about politics and how one can
Rest.
live the same experience growing up and then be like, what the hell? How did that happen? And
Right.
I certainly, growing up in a liberal bubble in South Florida, look at some of my peers that I grew up with, and I was like, we all grew up consuming the same art,
How did this happen?
learning empathy, reading the same books. Like, what the hell? But I do think there's something to be said, too, about just like such a specific gender gap of, even though there were plenty of times where people said to me, like, oh, do you have a girlfriend? Or, oh, isn't that girl pretty? There's still this element of, okay, but quote unquote, boys are allowed to make their own decisions.
Right. A little bit. Yeah. To a certain extent.
Just to some like very small extent at the time, certainly.
Yeah.
So it doesn't really, there isn't that, I don't know, that's interesting.
There's a difference. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. You said that Darcy is very much a fictional character, but there are some experiences from your life. Have you been to a sex den?
No, I've never been to a sex den, communist or otherwise. Have you?
Okay, I'm going to ask you this question again when we're not recording.
I mean, what is a sex den?
What is a sex den? What? There was this one time in grad school. So funny. Okay, so not a sex den, but something that does come up a lot in the book is bug killing.
Okay.
This is a hot button topic for me because in my household, I am the bug killer.
Okay.
Is this something you relate to? Tell me more. Are you not a bug person?
I'm not the bug killer. I actually just came into this room and there was a bug in the room. I had to get someone to come. Yeah.
I understand this.
It's because I don't want it, obviously. I don't want it to fall on me. It's less of a phobia of the bug. I'm not just like squirmy. If there were a bug in a place where I could definitely kill it, I can kill it.
Okay.
Well, if it's like there's a spider on the roof and I have really poor depth perception and bad eyesight, I just don't want a spider to fall on me.
Yeah.
I don't want to live. I don't want that.
My husband will not kill the bug. It could be right next to him, very squishable. He could be wearing shoes, very easily killable. And he won't do it. But strangely enough, he's fine with a rodent.
Oh, that's very strange.
Yeah.
Like in your house, he would.
No, but it's like an easier thing. There was, this is so graphic, not to be graphic, but we had a bird's nest outside of our house.
Okay.
I don't know, this is 2 years ago now.
Mhm.
And there were some birds that didn't make it and their little eggs and whatever. And they were on the ground. And I was like, I couldn't handle that. That was too much for me. And he was like, fine with it.
Okay.
Not fine with it, obviously. He was like sad for the birds. But
Right.
he's not a heartless
You can clean it
person.
up.
But he was totally fine cleaning it up. And I was like, I couldn't stomach that.
Oh, yeah.
But
I
like
agree.
a tiny ass spider, he cannot step on. Anyway.
Okay. There's something complicated going on with him.
Okay, what path do I want to take this on? Okay, while we're talking about
Dead
how you
birds.
may or may not be related to Darcy, or
Okay, yeah.
did you ever, what came up when, what was your experience at
Right.
Googling how to be a lesbian?
Oh, definitely Google that.
Coming of age at a time that's very similar, it was like, it made sense to Google it.
Oh, yeah. You got to get to the bottom of it. And it was very little. I think that was also part of it, is that it was like, God only knows. I feel like people nowadays can just go on TikTok, or they're already seeing, they're like, oh, I can see Renee Rapp or whatever. There's a bunch of people around, but we were like, wait a minute.
Or they're
what
like
is this weird
posting the
obscure thing?
question in their Instagram story. They're crowdsourcing.
Yeah.
Which I guess I was like doing that in like a Yahoo chat room or something.
Right. Yeah.
But it was like,
You dial up and you like, or like, I hope nobody picks up.
I need to know about being gay. Don't pick up the phone.
You just stop. Yeah.
So funny. Is there anything that you remember from those early searches? I only ask because I suddenly, even asking you the question, was like, Oh my God, I remember these like visceral things. Like,
Oh, I want to hear what you remembered. I can't. Nothing's coming to mind for me. What do you remember?
I very distinctly remember like a explanation of gay sex
Oh,
being, and it wasn't, what's the word I'm looking for? It wasn't like super like sexual, but it
okay. It
was
was just like functionally. Here's what you need to know.
not even, it was more like it gave you, I don't remember what site I was on or what it was, but whatever this was that I was looking at gave the whoever was Googling so much autonomy in deciding what sex meant for them.
Okay.
It was like, it could be massage, it could be intercourse, it could be touching, it could be whatever. And that was a very interesting sort of eye opener for me at a young age, thinking, oh, the only people that can have sex are
Right.
a man and a woman.
I feel like that is a major part. That does feel like something that I was like, also, what even is lesbian sex? What is that? Because it's not that. It's potentially not considered sex. That would be what I
Right.
wouldn't have considered it.
And I guess that's what I mean. It was like having someone, whatever that means, having
Yeah.
an internet source say you are allowed to define it. It's about how it makes you feel. It's about attraction. It's about X, Y, and
Right.
Z. I was
Right.
like, oh, that's crazy. That's very cool that it
Yeah.
is not undefinable, but it,
It shows a difference in the way that, yeah, like how maybe heterosexual people classify things and
yeah,
how it shows that it's, oh, what do you consider that? It's not. You've made a particular box that potentially isn't correct.
right, exactly.
Yeah.
There is a topic that comes up in the book that's, again, it's like roundabout, but there are moments of Darcy talking about needing to be self-preservational
Okay.
to
Yeah.
the point where it like could come across as selfish to people, but where it's very important. I'm curious from a selfish perspective, what has your experience been like in that world, in an element of like in a moment of needing to be self-preservational?
What do you mean? Maybe could you expand more on your?
So like choosing to live far away, becoming a lesbian, marrying a woman, having no children is
Okay.
selfish, right?
Right.
In quotation marks. But really it's just being authentic or being self-preservational. I feel like I have come across a lot of hurdles, particularly in the last 6 years or so,
Right.
of not going to family events
Mhm.
or not reaching out to certain people in my life for the
Mhm.
sake of self-preservation. And it 100% is coming across as me being selfish. And maybe self-preserving yourself is selfish, but it's also imperative for my own survival.
I don't think that's selfish, but I think that is something that was something that I think was like an epiphany for me around when my brain developed too, which was that I was someone, especially when I was younger, who was really inclined towards people pleasing
Mm,
in a way that I wasn't self-aware of even. Just it really matters to me that I'm not offending people and that I'm doing what people expect at the expense of like your absolute self. And I do think that there might be, what do I know? But I do think there might be a trend towards people doing this to an extreme, and I'm basing that fully off of TikTok, so I don't know if that's true.
yeah.
Or in some cases, like if you're someone who is though like I really need to protect my peace, so I'm not going to go to my friend's birthday party because of whatever reason, and that's part of why we're not having as much community. So I do think that there are these things to consider. But when it comes to going to a family event where you know your uncle is gonna who doesn't believe that your marriage is valid or that sort of thing, it's a very different. And I think that there is this, especially I bet for lots of people, but I obviously have a queer perspective. There is a certain expectation that we martyr ourselves for for everyone else's comfort, and there's this lack of
Mm,
empathy or understanding for what it actually feels like to be in a room with someone where you're prioritizing their comfort or just the peace of the room over anything, over like over the absolute core of yourself, which is not reasonable and shouldn't be. I do think it's important for us to, there is probably a line of caring about other people and being uncomfortable sometimes, but not when it comes to I don't need to care more about my homophobic uncle's appearances or him feeling comfortable in a room
Mhm.
than I do about my own life. I wouldn't go around someone like that. I think it's important to check in with yourself about those kinds of things. I do think there's like an element of being aware of yourself and knowing what you can personally tolerate or what you want to take on.
Mm.
Because there is an element of it being good to be around people who have different thoughts than you, who have different experiences than you, and that's important. But you need to be, I think it's important to protect yourself.
Yeah. And there is a difference. I feel like I'm defending myself, but not actually. There's a difference between like perpetual trauma that
Oh, yeah.
versus like having an engaging conversation with someone who thinks differently than you.
Oh, for sure. Yeah. And what's the difference also? Why are you uncomfortable around them? Is it because they are fully like hateful or voted for someone, for example, who is like jeopardizing the safety of you or your loved ones or people or anyone? Or is it this person says, I'm thinking of individual people in my own circle that
Yeah.
I'm like, okay, that guy, I never want to see again in my life.
Yeah.
The lady I could maybe talk to.
100%. It's totally circumstantial. And unfortunately, there are also innocent bystanders. Okay, one more. Did this happen to you? Because obviously, again, I know it's fiction. I'm sure it didn't. But I have to ask. Did you ever accidentally post a naked picture on Instagram?
No, but I'm inclined to intrusive thoughts. So I'm someone who thinks that anytime I'm like around, anytime I'm taking a picture and there's any reflective surface, I'm like, what do I look like in that? What am I wearing right now? I hope I'm dressed.
Good for you. Like, we all should be that self-aware of our surroundings. Come on. I know.
Yeah.
I do think about that.
Especially, and I like renovated my bathroom, and when I had to pick my like tap, I was like, I'm gonna pick a matte black tap because I don't want a reflective chrome tap anywhere where I'm accidentally taking a picture of my bath bomb or something.
Are you doing that a lot?
Nah, but like,
But just in case, you never know.
no.
So funny. There, of course, is a great moment, as any queer person knows, being called a pleasure to have in class is innuendo for being gay. And I think it's Darcy who talks about how she's desperate to get an A+ in therapy.
Yeah.
Emily, I have to tell you, just last week, my husband and I, in couples therapy, our therapist called us overachievers, and it was the best moment of my life.
Well, we're out of the word. Happy holidays.
I was like, am I winning therapy?
Oh, good for you. That's the dream. Yeah.
So you relate to this too?
Yeah, definitely relate to that. Yeah. Yeah. Anytime I go to therapy, I'm like, oh my God, especially if you get like a new therapist. I'm like, well, I'm prepared. Listen, do it. Should I bring you like a binder? Just bullet notes. I won't overwhelm you. I want to make sure.
I know. I should be keeping notes.
Job is here. Yeah.
You're a librarian, so this is like, you have your own, I'm sure,
Education
catalog.
Yeah.
What was I just going to say about that? I don't know. But it's interesting. I was an overachiever, or I am an overachiever. I'm a lazy overachiever.
Okay.
I wanted every teacher at school to love me. Didn't care if I got an A.
Okay, interesting. All right, no, I see what your priorities are. I get it.
Do you know what I mean? And yet, like for this podcast, I need to read every page of the book. Like otherwise I feel so inauthentic. If I like didn't finish a book, I'm like, the author knows. They could sense it.
I definitely wouldn't know. I think you could have got away with it. You could just wrap up each chapter.
I do have a BFA in theater, so I probably could get away with it, but I wouldn't be able to sleep at night.
Yeah.
But no, at school, it was more about being liked than about the grade. I don't know if you relate to that at all.
That's something to bring up in therapy, I think.
I know. That's not wrong. They're speaking of like similar compulsions. Reorganizing a home library is a moment in the book.
Mm-hmm.
Why is that the hardest thing to do ever?
It is hard. I try to do it all the time, and then I always regret what I did. I have this. I like will take everything out. I'm like, okay, I should do it. I should just do it like a library. But then when I'm looking for a particular book, I'm like, no, I need to do this by vibes. I need to have like when I feel like reading this kind of book, it's over here.
Uh-huh.
Yeah. And I also don't, I've cared about that a little bit less messy right now, but I'm also like, I don't want books I don't like to be in the prominent spot just because I have them and maybe I should get rid of them, but I don't want to get rid of them. It's complicated.
Yeah. I didn't think I'd ever admit this to anybody, but here we are. We're getting vulnerable on Gaze Reading at the beginning of January. New year, new me. I explained to ChatGPT everything that I wanted out of my library in my office
Okay.
and asked it to tell me how I should organize it.
What did it say?
It gave me great advice. To
Okay.
your point of I don't want books that I don't love in prominent places.
Right. Did it?
It among the things was like, if you're not accessing a book anytime soon, put it on the top shelf, which seems logical.
Right.
But in my mind, I like wanted to do things orderly
Right.
or whatever.
Yeah.
But having
Or human-centric. Yeah.
having artificial intelligence tell me that it was okay made me feel better.
Robots like, yeah, put the
Right.
That's something you learn a lot. I remember one thing we learned in library school was about putting children's books, and this I do here, is putting children's books at the bottom shelves because kids can reach it.
I do have
So I
my
always
children's
say-
books at the bottom shelf.
Yeah.
I also love that I own a bunch of children's books.
Yeah, it's fun.
Do you feel that like extra burden of it because you have a degree in library sciences?
No, I don't, because I don't have many. I don't think I have many librarian. If I feel like if I had a bunch of librarians coming to my house, I might be like, I should pretend that my library room is locked for some reason.
This is a really cute idea. Like, I'm curious to do like a social media segment of librarians showing us their home libraries.
That would be fun. Yeah. I bet they're less organized if I had to guess.
Oh,
because
of course. It's very like
Yeah.
Shoemaker's Kids.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly. Yeah.
Oh my, I'm literally writing that down as an idea because I think it's so cute. Okay, before we move on to a behind the paywall segment talking about books that you've loved in your life,
Yep.
I want to talk to you and learn a little bit more about going from library sciences to human libraries. Can you tell the listeners about a human library?
Yeah. So a human library is in the book, it's a program, but it's something that communities can do where rather than lending a book, you lend a person. And it's this idea where you could, for example, check out I don't know, like someone who had experienced cancer or someone who is, I don't know, like of a different religion or has some particular experience in life. And you check them out to have a conversation with them. And it's an interesting way to foster community and understanding and learn more about different people. It's a cool thing. And it's the library in the book, they're looking for program planning ideas. And it was one of their ideas.
But it's a real thing.
It is a real thing. Yeah.
Right. Have you ever experienced anything like it?
No, I haven't. I would like to, though. I feel like that would be fun. To write the book, I watched a bunch of videos of people doing it, and I read the whole website about it.
Right.
And,
I Googled it because I was like, is this something Emily made up or
Right.
is it a real thing? And I saw, of course, that it is a real thing. And I'm fascinated by it.
Yeah, it's a fun idea.
I'm such a firm believer that like becoming a reader or books can come at you in different ways. And whether or not it's like through reading or through experiencing, I don't know. It became a very compelling way of introducing people to new things.
Yeah.
Anyway, I'm obsessed with it as an idea. I'm grateful that I learned about it in this book. Hilariously, this is such a random thing to tell you, but I just saw that somebody read Everyone in This Room Will Be Dead Someday, or Will Someday Be Dead. And I reached out to them and I was like, oh, I'm talking to Emily soon. I just read her new book. It's so fun. What did you think? And his response was, I'm so glad I read it. I thoroughly enjoyed it. I was so compelled. He said, but I have such OCD that the fact that she didn't do her dishes made it so hard for me to read. And I haven't read the book yet, but I thought that was so funny as like a human condition sort of thing. I was like, I had to tell because I think that's really fascinating.
I can't stand this.
I know. It was like, I can't know that this fictional character's sink is full.
Every time I open this book, I'm just thinking about the dirty dishes.
Yes, so
Aw.
funny. Anyway, everyone go get your copy of Is This a Cry for Help? And in the meantime, come join us over on Substack, where I'm about to talk to Emily about some books that she's loved in her life or that she's recommending. And for all the regular people, for all the non-subscribers, Emily, have a great rest of your day. Thank you for being here.
Thanks for having me. It's great chatting.
Thank you so much, Emily. Everyone, go get your copy of Is This a Cry for Help today. And I will be back later this week for the next What Are You Reading episode. Have a great rest of your day. Bye.